As the leaves fall and the world grows colder, so do countless unseen hearts. October and November, the months we call beautiful, quietly become the months when too many decide they can't go on. As the days grow shorter and the air begins to chill, something subtle yet powerful begins to shift within us. Most people don't notice it, the way the sun sets just a little earlier, or how the once warm evenings slowly turn cold and quiet. But the body does. The mind does. It starts as a slight change in mood, a bit more fatigue, a little less motivation. Soon, that gentle drift turns into something heavier, harder to explain, and even harder to fight. This is the silent seasonal shift, the moment when nature's beauty hides a growing emotional storm. What we often fail to understand is that our mental state is deeply connected to the rhythm of light and darkness. As October arrives, the sunlight that once nourished our mood begins to fade. Our circadian rhythm, the body's natural clock, falls out of sync. Serotonin, the chemical that keeps us balanced and content, starts to dip. Melatonin levels rise earlier, pulling us toward fatigue, even hopelessness. We call it feeling off, just tired or not myself lately. But it's something much deeper. It's the mind responding to the darkness around it. There's something hauntingly poetic about autumn. The trees shed their leaves, the world quiets, and life slows down. It mirrors the very process happening inside many of us. The energy of summer fades, replaced by introspection and solitude. For some, that solitude becomes suffocating. The silence of fall, the shorter days, the colder nights, they can turn into an echo chamber where pain grows louder. And because this change happens gradually, few recognize it as danger until it's already taken hold. This isn't just about biology, it's about psychology too. As the season changes, so does our environment. People spend less time outside, less time socializing, and more time alone with their thoughts. Nature no longer offers the same light or color to lift the spirit. Those who already struggle with anxiety, depression, or loneliness begin to feel the weight of it more intensely. The season itself becomes a quiet accomplice, not through malice, but through neglect. We glorify autumn's beauty, yet ignore the emotional shadow it casts. Think about how easily this pattern hides in plain sight. Someone might seem perfectly fine, laughing, working, posting pictures of pumpkin spice lattes, yet inside, they're unraveling. The world tells us fall is cozy, warm, and full of comfort. But for many, it's when the light within starts to dim. The contrast between what we see and what we feel deepens the isolation. They start to believe they're the only ones feeling this way, when in truth, countless others are silently enduring the same decline. It's not weakness, it's not failure. It's the body and mind reacting to a loss of light, warmth, and connection. And the most dangerous part is how quietly it happens. There's no clear warning, no obvious sign, just a slow fading of color, both in the world and within the soul. We tell ourselves it's just the season, that things will pass, but for some that waiting becomes unbearable. That's why awareness is everything. Recognizing that these months carry hidden emotional weight can be life-saving. It allows us to prepare, to reach out, to check in on those who might not say a word. Because the truth is, no one ever plans to fall into darkness. It just happens one shorter day at a time. And as the leaves continue to fall, we must remember, behind every beautiful season, there's a shadow, and sometimes noticing it is the first step to saving a life. Autumn is supposed to be beautiful. The air turns crisp, the world glows in warm shades of orange and gold, and every corner seems to echo with laughter, festivals and family gatherings. It's the time when people post pictures of cozy sweaters, bonfires, and smiling faces wrapped in scarves. But what we rarely see, what almost no one talks about, is how many of those smiles are worn like masks. Behind the beauty of this season, behind the illusion of joy, an invisible pain lingers for countless people who are silently falling apart. We live in a culture that celebrates happiness loudly and hides sadness quietly. When October and November arrive, that pressure intensifies. Everyone is told to be grateful, to enjoy the holidays, to find comfort in togetherness. But what about the ones who feel alone even in a room full of people? The ones who scroll through perfect pictures of families and friends and feel a hollow ache inside. These are the months when the contrast between the world's celebration and one's inner emptiness becomes unbearable. What makes it worse is how invisible it all looks from the outside. Depression doesn't always appear as tears or silence. Sometimes it hides behind jokes, busy schedules, and I'm fine. People learn to perform normalcy because the world doesn't make space for sadness, especially during a time that's supposed to be filled with joy. The more society expects cheerfulness, the deeper the guilt becomes for those who can't feel it. They start to believe something is wrong with them for not being happy, as if sadness itself is a flaw rather than a human experience. Social media magnifies this illusion. You open your phone and see highlight reels of others' lives, family dinners, autumn adventures, cozy nights in, and it feeds a dangerous narrative. Everyone else is doing great. But that's the thing about masks. They're designed to look perfect. No one posts about the sleepless nights, the quiet tears, or the days when getting out of bed feels impossible. So those who are struggling begin to withdraw even more, convinced that their pain is abnormal or unwanted. The silence thickens, and the loneliness deepens. Even the festive atmosphere can become a cruel reminder. The laughter of others can make your own emptiness echo louder. The joy of crowds can amplify how disconnected you feel. For many, these celebrations become performances, a desperate attempt to blend in, to not worry anyone, to not ruin the mood. They smile in photos, make small talk, and laugh when expected. But inside they're sinking. That kind of pretending is exhausted. It drains whatever strength is left, until the mask feels easier to wear than the truth. But here's what most people don't realize. The act of hiding pain isn't about deception. It's about survival. When the world doesn't know how to handle sadness, we learn to hide it. When people respond with discomfort or dismissal, we retreat further. And so, the ones who appear the strongest, the ones always there for others, always smiling, are often the ones carrying the heaviest unseen burdens. This is the cruel paradox of autumn. While everything outside looks beautiful, many inside are breaking. We celebrate change in nature, but ignore the changes happening within us. The mask of festivity becomes a prison, a place where pain is silenced by expectation, and unless someone looks closely, listens carefully, or dares to ask, "How are you really?" that pain remains unseen until it's too late. So as the world celebrates another golden season, remember, not every smile is a reflection of joy. Some are shields, some are signals, and some are silent cries for help. When people hear the term winter blues, they often shrug it off, as if it's just a passing mood, or a bit of seasonal laziness. But what many don't realize is that for a significant number of people, it's much more than that. It's not just feeling a little down because it's cold outside. It's a deep, physiological, and psychological shift that grips the mind and body. This is seasonal affective disorder, or SAD, and it's far more common and dangerous than most imagine. It doesn't wait for the snow to fall. It starts creeping in quietly around October and November, right when the world still looks alive with color. That's what makes it so deceptive. As the days grow shorter, the sunlight that our brains rely on begins to fade. Sunlight isn't just about warmth or visibility. It directly affects our brain chemistry. Less sunlight means less serotonin, the neurotransmitter responsible for mood balance and emotional stability. At the same time, melatonin production increases, which regulates sleep. The imbalance between the two leaves us drained, unmotivated, and emotionally fragile. It's like living in a constant fog, where everything feels muted, distant, and heavy. You wake up tired, you go through the motions, and even small tasks feel overwhelming. But SAD isn't just about chemical shifts. It's about what those shifts do to a person's sense of hope. Imagine losing interest in things you once loved, not because you want to, but because your brain simply can't generate the spark anymore. Imagine feeling trapped inside yourself, knowing logically that you have reasons to be okay, but emotionally feeling like you're sinking anyway. That's what this disorder does. It creates a disconnect between what you know and what you feel, and that dissonance is exhausting. The scariest part is that people often dismiss it. Society tells us to tough it out, to stay positive, to just go outside or cheer up. But when you're dealing with a biochemical imbalance, positive thinking isn't enough. This isn't about weakness or lack of willpower. It's about a physiological change in how the brain processes emotion and energy. And when that goes untreated or unnoticed, it can spiral into something much darker. Depression deepens, self-worth declines, and suicidal thoughts begin to emerge, especially in those who already feel isolated. It's easy to underestimate how much environment shapes emotion. The human brain evolved in rhythm with nature, light, warmth, connection. When those fade, we feel it at every level. The gray skies, the longer nights, the stillness, they all contribute to a quiet, creeping sadness that can consume even the strongest minds. People start sleeping more, eating differently, withdrawing from friends, losing interest in life without realizing that the season itself is pulling them downward. And yet, because this shift happens gradually, it often goes unnoticed until it's severe. Someone might seem lazy, unmotivated, or distant, but inside they're fighting a biochemical battle just to exist. They might not even understand why they feel the way they do. That confusion adds another layer of suffering, a sense of guilt for not being able to snap out of it. It's not just sadness, it's a total rewiring of how the brain functions during these months. Recognizing this truth is not about fear, it's about awareness. Understanding that October and November can trigger real measurable changes in mental health, can save lives. When we stop calling it just the blues and start calling it what it is, a serious psychological and biological condition, we can begin to treat it with the compassion and urgency it deserves. Because sometimes the difference between surviving the season and succumbing to it is simply knowing that what you're feeling is real and that you're not alone. Awareness is where everything begins. In a world that moves fast and speaks loud, we often miss the quiet signs that someone is struggling. The truth is, most people who are hurting won't come right out and say it. They won't announce their pain, they won't ask for help, and they won't always look the way we expect someone in distress to look. They laugh at the right moments, they show up to work, they post cheerful photos, but inside, they might be fighting thoughts that no one else can hear. That's why awareness isn't just about understanding statistics or knowing what depression looks like in a textbook. It's about learning to see beyond the surface. When October and November arrive, the signs are often subtle. A friend who starts canceling plans, a coworker who seems more distracted or withdrawn, someone who jokes about being tired all the time, or who suddenly becomes quieter online. These small shifts might seem insignificant, but they can be early whispers of a deeper struggle. Too often we dismiss them, thinking they're probably just busy, or they'll bounce back. But sometimes they don't. Sometimes those tiny changes are the body and mind's way of asking for help, before the person even knows how to say it out loud. That's why compassion matters more than advice. When someone is hurting, they don't always need solutions. They need presence. They need someone who listens without judgment, someone who doesn't try to fix them, but simply reminds them that they're not invisible. A simple check-in, a message saying, "Hey, how have you really been?" can mean more than you realize. It can break through the silence that depression thrives in, because isolation feeds hopelessness, and connection is the one thing that can interrupt that cycle. We underestimate the power of small acts. Sending a text, sharing a meal, sitting in quiet with someone who doesn't want to talk. These things sound simple, but to a person drowning in their own thoughts, they can feel like lifelines. Sometimes just knowing that someone notices, that someone cares enough to ask, can be the difference between holding on and giving up. We don't have to save anyone, we just have to show up for them. Awareness also means learning to check in with ourselves. The same compassion we offer others, we must offer inward. These months test everyone differently, and pretending to be fine only deepens the loneliness. It's okay to admit when you're struggling. It's okay to take breaks, to ask for help, to let someone in. We are so conditioned to appear strong that we forget real strength often means vulnerability. The courage to say, I'm not okay right now. The more we normalize that honesty, the more we make it safe for others to do the same. And then there's the societal side. How we talk about mental health as a whole. Awareness shouldn't only appear during mental health campaigns or awareness days. It should live in everyday conversation. We need to dismantle the idea that sadness is shameful, that asking for help is weakness. Because when silence becomes the norm, people die in it. This hidden suicide season isn't inevitable. It's a reflection of how disconnected we've become from empathy, from slowing down long enough to notice the quiet suffering around us. So as the colder months settle in and the world grows quieter, let that be our reminder to listen louder, to reach out more, to assume less, to care deeper. Awareness is not a one-time act. It's a daily choice to stay human in a world that forgets how fragile we all are. Sometimes saving a life doesn't start with a grand gesture. It starts with a single moment of compassion. October and November are not just months on a calendar. They are mirrors reflecting how fragile the human soul can be. When the light begins to fade, the beauty of this season hides a silent storm, and the only way to break it is to see, to listen, and to care before the silence becomes permanent, because sometimes the smallest act of empathy is all it takes to keep another heartbeat alive.